information. So if it's weight loss, if it's relationship stuff, it doesn't matter. This exercise is templatable to any situation, right? So we'll use the low sales thing because I know everybody in here is an entrepreneur, and you can, of course, understand the logic here that I'm using. So what we're going to do is we're going to say, well, what would be causing this low sales symptom, right? Well, first of all, maybe they're not getting enough traffic. Okay, that's great. Well, what else? Well, maybe their sales letter's not converting, or maybe their opt-in page isn't converting. Okay, makes sense. What else? Well, maybe they're not following up with their leads properly, or maybe they're following up, but they're not being cool to them, or whatever, right? So we could go on and on and on for this, incidentally, but we'll just stick with these top three. Now, your three are going to be whatever your three are. It doesn't matter, right? Next step here is on the other side of your paper, the right side of your piece of paper. I want you to make another column, and then let's start listing solutions for every one of these symptoms. So if we were looking at the solutions to low traffic, we could say, well, they could expand targeting, they could expand media, meaning they could go from AdWords, and they could add Facebook, and they could add Bing, and they could add native advertising, etc. And they could improve their ad copy. So maybe their advertising copy that generates the traffic in the first place is bad, right? Whatever your solutions are, you don't have to write a novel here at this stage. We just want to write little bullet point type things, just like I did. So the next thing you want to do is find a solution to bad conversion, or whatever your symptom is, right? So, and mine, just as an example, I wrote, well, they could change media. So maybe AdWords doesn't convert, but maybe Facebook would. They could change their offer structure, right? So maybe their offer structure is give me $9 million immediately, where a better converting offer might say, hey, try this for a $100 deposit, and then if you like it, it can be 9 million monthly payments of $1 or whatever, We could add bonuses to increase conversion. We could do risk reversal to increase conversion. We could change copy like headlines. We could match the traffic sources better, etc. And then you do it for the other problems as well, or the other causes of symptoms, right? So the cause for their low sales could be lack of follow-up, and we say, well, my solution to that would be to teach them how to do results in advance type sequencing, teach them how to do a countdown sequence, teach them how to do event-based promotions like webinars, and teach them how to do what I'm going to show you here in a minute, which is dynamic behavioral marketing, which is extremely cool and very new, and really the nuclear weapon of marketing, I think, right? So now that we have this, let me show you how people like us use this information to explode our reach and become celebritized. So here's what we do. Instead of offering one free report on how to make more sales, we attack the market from multiple angles. We start out with a report on how to increase traffic, right? And then we send that traffic, we advertise that and send them to an opt-in page to get that report. We do another report on how to increase conversion. We send them to an opt-in page to increase conversion. We do another report on how to do a proper follow-up sequence. We send them to an opt-in page about that follow-up sequence, and infinitum, right? If you can come up with 10 of these, the more the merrier. But let's just stick with 3, because if you got 3, you probably have 300% more than your competitors, right? Thank God your competitors are lazy. I'm telling you, huge opportunity. So what we do next is we send them to something called a dynamic campaign system. I'll walk you through that in detail here in a minute. And then finally, we send them through an ascension system, okay? But let's stay on track here. So let's talk about this first little phase. So let's say we've created our traffic report, right? And we've created the conversion report, and we've created our follow-up report. So we're sending people, instead of to one thing, we're now sending people to 3 different lead magnets. Now, why is this better besides common sense? Well, first of all, it allows you to approach the same market from multiple angles instead of just one. That means you have greater reach, right? Now, also, it gets you more leads because you've got more opportunities for people to enter your system, right? So people just have one point of entry. Most of the time, they just have that one report. If you have multiple reports, multiple points of entry, then you could end up getting, let's say, instead of one point of entry, you have 3 points of entry. That means you could get up to 300% more leads just by following the strategy. And another huge benefit is because you have so many points of entry. Let's say you have 3 reports instead of 1. This causes you to be everywhere. Now, that means they're seeing your ads everywhere. You likely see my ads everywhere. Well, what does that do when you constantly see me, or when your prospects constantly see you? What's happening right there? Exactly. It breeds familiarity. Familiarity breeds trust. Trust fuels sales. And what is a celebrity other than a famous person? What causes you to be famous? To be seen everywhere. You see where this is going? So now check this out from a numerical standpoint, from an empirical standpoint, if we want to sound scientific and sophisticated. If your traffic and opt-in rate remained the same for every lead magnet, for every report, and your sales conversion remained the same, that means if you added just one more lead magnet to your business, you could double your sales. If you added 3 lead magnets and everything stayed the same, right, you could literally triple your business just by doing that. But people don't do it. Instead, they think of, oh, what's the latest and greatest flash in the pan tactic, right? So that is one way of many to very quickly, almost instantaneously, expand your reach massively and massively grow the amount of leads that are coming into your list and simultaneously be everywhere, which celebritizes you. However, let's look at part 2 of this, because part 2 is where this becomes ridiculous. All right. Now, part 2 is something I showed you called the dynamic campaign system. And you've probably been thinking, what in the world is a dynamic campaign system? Well, it utilizes the power of pull. It utilizes a little bit of NLP and psychology too. It's pretty sneaky. So here's what your competition is doing, right? You've opted into the competition's list, okay, because they have their one free report out there, right? And you found it miraculously, and so you opted in. Well, what happens? Well, they send an email about their offer, right? And then what do? You click on that email and you go to a sales letter or a sales video or what else. And then if you don't buy it, what happens? They send you about 9,000 more emails about the same offer, right? Well, that sucks. It doesn't suck for you because it pisses their customers off, but it sucks for them. You don't want to do it. So here's why it sucks. First of all, it provides zero value to the prospect, right? Now, if you remember our fundamental irrefutable truth, which is the amount of money that we generate is in direct proportion to the amount of value we provide, what does this ultimately mean? It means less money, right? It also builds zero goodwill. Remember, fundamental truth number 2, our income is in direct proportion to the amount of goodwill we have. If it doesn't build goodwill, what does it mean? Less money. Finally, the guy who doesn't buy, he's going to opt out or stop opening. Why does this happen? Because he's sick of it. Because all he's getting is just push. Go buy, go buy, go buy. Nobody wants to be treated like that, right? Like if I did that to you, how long would you read my emails? For about a millisecond, and then I go straight to your trash folder, which is where I deserve to be. Okay, well, your competition deserves to be there. Don't you see why it's so easy right now? We have such a huge opportunity to rise above this incredible noise just by being cool to people. I'll show you how to systematically do it in a minute, but I want to give you the final reason why this sucks is because ultimately it doesn't make as much money as it could, right? Now let me explain pull. I'll explain how pull works and why it's better. So here are the basics of it, right? Now this is a very basic, like 30,000 foot overview. So people request cool and valuable stuff from you. Keyword there is request, right? They see an ad for a free report on how to get more traffic. They go, yeah, I'd like that, please. And you say, okay, here you go. Enjoy. Thank you so much, right? And then based on the cool and valuable stuff you give them, they decide they want to do business with you. Now, notice the words I put in bold here, which are request and they decide. See, this dynamic response stuff that I want to share with you today, it really, really utilizes a lot of deep level psychology. And the key driver around it is something I call EDT. And EDT stands for internal decision triggers. Internal decision triggers help people decide for themselves that they want your stuff as opposed to you trying to convince them of anything. In other words, internal decision triggers pull people towards you as opposed to you pushing your stuff towards them, right? So here's why this is powerful. An internal decision trigger means that you're deciding that you want something. That's what I mean by internal. You are the one deciding, right? I'm deciding I want this, okay? External means that another factor has caused you to make the decision, usually another person, right? So external means that someone else is convincing me that I want something. Well, here's the thing about we humans, and we are all the same when it comes to this stuff. When we decide something for ourselves, we will defend that decision. We own it. Oftentimes, even if we know we're wrong, we'll still stick to the decision and we'll say, nope, I'm right. I made that decision. I'm not changing. This is my decision. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been in an argument? Maybe I'm the only one. My wife will tell you I do this. If you're in an argument, you're like, no, I'm right. And you know you're wrong, damn it. But because you're so married to this decision you made, you're going to stick with it. Well, what's the flip side of that, right? If someone else convinces you of something, well, your opinion, your decision is on very shaky territory. We almost have a subconscious desire to prove them wrong because we're so independent by nature. We're humans. That's the way we work, right? So that is sort of some basic human psychology and how all this works, but I've developed a pretty intense new twist for it, right? Now, this uses NLP, and it uses this thing I told you about called behavioral dynamic marketing. Now, I'll tell you about the NLP in a minute, which is pretty cool. But let me talk to you about behavioral dynamic marketing, okay? This is where your marketing messages are dynamically determined by how your prospects behave and what they respond to, meaning Prospect A is going to get an entirely different marketing experience than Prospect B based on what these guys do, what they click on, what they don't click on, etc., right? So it's very, very powerful. So first of all, let me show you what everyone else is doing, and this will illustrate, the tremendous opportunity that you and I have to capitalize on their behavior. So let's make it really, really simple, okay? Let's say that we're selling a bowl of fruit, and our fruit has apples, bananas, and oranges in it, okay? So your competitors go out, and they generate leads by saying, free report reveals how awesome fruit is, right? You know, the standard way. And they build a list. And they take 100% of this list and they say, okay, everybody, go buy my fruit bowl, right? And what happens? Well, the next day, say 3% of those people went and checked out the fruit bowl. All right, well, that's great. So that 3% goes, says, all right, yay, fruit bowl, neat. Okay, whatever. And then now you have 97% of the list left, right? So what do those guys do? Well, your competition now sends those guys another email that says, hey, dude, seriously, go buy my fruit bowl. Come on. I already sent you an email yesterday. Okay, so then what happens? Well, the next day, maybe 2% now go. Now notice this number is getting smaller, right? And this happens. This is constant. If you keep pushing to a list, your response will get smaller. It's guaranteed. That is a typical result, right? So you got 2% now goes and checks out the fruit bowl, and you had 3% check them out yesterday. So now we have just this 95%. Still most of the list is still sitting there. They've done nothing, right? So now your competition goes, hey, dude, go buy this fruit bowl. Everyone else bought it, and it's an awesome fruit bowl, and you should buy it because there was not making any more fruit anytime soon, and scarcity, and blah, you know, all the stuff that you see everybody doing, which you hate, right? So they go say, go buy this fruit, and then what happens? Well, that message, maybe 1% of the people go buy that fruit bowl, right? So now we still have 94% of the list who hasn't responded. Now, what do you think these guys are feeling right about now? What do you think they want to say to your competitor? I'll just let you fill in the blanks on that one. That's how they feel, and that's how you feel too, right? When you get emails from all of the, well, we're on the same list, right? So for all the marketing hype emails, after about 10 minutes of it, you're like, you know what, man? Here's a gesture for you, you know, and you unsubscribe or you just quit opening. Well, your competition is doing the exact same thing. This is industry-wide, no matter what the market is. I can guarantee you most people use this type of marketing approach, if any at all, right? So here's what you and I do to rise above and to capitalize like we've never had the opportunity to do before. Let's say we're in the same business. We're in the fruit bowl business. And try saying that real fast on a webinar, right? So we have, first of all, we've gone out, we've gotten a lot more people, because what did we do? We created a free report about bananas, we created a free report about apples, and we created a free report about oranges as well, right? So we have a much bigger list, and we start out with our big list, and instead of saying, go buy this fruit, we do something different. We don't tell them to go buy anything. We say, hey, list, I just made this cool video for you that walks you through a pretty fun recipe that I've got for making healthy desserts out of baked apples for your kids. It's about 5 minutes long, and it'll play automatically for you here on this website. I hope you enjoy it. See you later. That's all we do, right? So what happens the next day? Well, the next day, we've had about 3 people go, and they go watch that video, and they're like, okay. But now here's what's pretty cool, right? Due to developments in automation, what we can do now is we can automatically cause just those 3% of people to now be in a sequence that's all about apples. So the next day, they get another video or another article. It doesn't have to be a video. It could be an article or a blog post or anything you want. And then that one, it says, hey, here's how to make apple pie. And this is low glycemic apple pie that your kids are going to love, and it won't add inches to your waistline. And then the next day, these guys are automatically going to get another video or an article, and you're going to say, hey, I'm so glad you're enjoying these Apple videos I've been making for you. And in today's video, we've got this brand new recipe on how to make, what do we got? I don't know. Apple strudel. I'm running out of Apple ideas, on how to make apple strudel, right? And I hope you enjoy it, and you can watch it here and let me know, right? So now remember, only the people who originally responded, only that 3% are experiencing this. Your other 97%, we're not doing anything with them right now, right? But all of this is happening behind the scenes automatically to the people who clicked the first Apple video. Now, here's where it gets cool. At the end of each of these videos, what we do is we tell them about what? Our bowl of fruit. Why? Because our bowl of fruit has apples, right? And it has other cool stuff that they want anyway, because ultimately they like fruit, right? So this is extremely powerful. Now let's take this a step further. So the next day happens, right? So we did this on day number 1, and now boom, all of these Apple people are in their little Apple sequence, and they're in Apple world. Who wouldn't want to be in Apple world, right? Well, 97% of the list elected not to go into Apple world. So what do? Well, first of all, let's talk about these Apple people, right? How do you think they feel right now? So if we did nothing except for just send out that one Apple email, and now this 3% of Apple people are getting this incredible sequence, is adding massive value, talking about all the cool stuff they can do with apples. How do you think they feel about you? They're thinking, this is awesome. Thank you so much, right? And they're probably thinking, man, I'm really enjoying this. I wonder what they're going to send me next. That's perfect. What about the 97% who didn't respond? They are neutral +2. I'll tell you what that means. If you had a scale of 1 to 10, right? And 1 was they hated you, and 5 was they were completely neutral, and 10 was they thought you were awesome, they'd be about 2 over neutral, which would be about a 7. They don't hate you by any means. They're not like, yay, this guy's cool. They're kind of like, oh yeah, I know that dude. He sent me an email about some Apple recipes the other day. I haven't had a chance to look at it. That's all, right? So we have a little bit of goodwill with this list, but if you compare it to the other lists, they would have hated us by now because we would have been pummeling them. But still, dude, we've got this 97% of these people. Now remember, all we did was send one email so far. Now 3% of them have responded, so they're in Apple world. This other 97%, all they got was an email offering them what? A free recipe, a free video about Apple. So what are we going to do today? Well, the very next day, if we want to, we can say, hey, Bob, how's it going? You know what? I remember as a little kid, my grandmother used to make the best banana bread in the world. And I found her recipe while going through some family archives, and I made a video for you that walks you through the way how to make my grandmother's famous banana bread, right? Now remember, we don't send that to those other 3% because they're in Apple world. So what happens, right? Well, the next day, what do you know? Hot diggity. Lots of people love banana bread. Who doesn't? So we got 8% of these guys have now clicked on the banana bread one. So what are we doing for these guys? Same thing we did with the Apple guys. Automatically now. Remember, all of this is happening on autopilot. Now the next day, just the people who clicked on bananas are getting another banana recipe for banana pudding, and then they get one for banana cream pie. And simultaneously, while all this is happening, behind the scenes, our people in Apple world are getting all this cool Apple stuff. They got the apple bread recipe, they got the apple pie recipe, and they got the apple strudel recipe. And now what? Now we have 6 pieces of goodwill content going out there. Now what happens? At the end of every single one of them, boom, they all point to the fruit bowl. So now we literally have 12 instances where we're able to push that bowl of fruit while simultaneously building goodwill. And we're pushing it based on what they responded to. I'll tell you specifically how to do this in a minute. I want to finish explaining the strategy. So what do we have left now? Well, first of all, what are these guys thinking? They're thinking, man, this is awesome. The banana guys who love bananas, they're getting banana recipes. The apple guys are getting apple recipes. They think we're killer. The other people, well, they're still at neutral +2. They're like, oh, yeah, I know that dude. He sent me a couple recipes this week. It seemed pretty nice. I hadn't checked them out yet. I will if I get time, right? That's how they feel about us, right? Whereas your competitors, their list wants to kill them by now. Right now, your unresponsive list, they're just like, oh, yeah, I remember that. That's just because we haven't caught their attention yet, right? So now what do? Well, The next day, we can send these guys something about oranges, right? So then 5% of those people might click on the orange recipe. So we send them a video about orange juice, and then we send them some more videos about how to make other orange stuff, right? Orange marmalade, and I don't know what else you do with oranges. We grow oranges here at my house, and we juice them every day. So that's why I keep thinking about orange juice, right? So remember, that's just the orange people. Our banana guys are getting the banana bread stuff, and are getting all that banana content. Our apple guys are getting the apple content. And now what is every piece of this Goodwill content pointing to? Boom, it points to that fruit bowl. Why? Because they're all related. You understand how it works? It's a dynamically generated marketing pieces based on what they express interest in real time, right? But we still have, 88% of our list who didn't respond yet? Well, first of all, the guys who have responded think we are amazing, because we have just given them so much goodwill that they can't stand it, right? And the 88% who have yet to respond, well, they're cool. They're like, oh yeah, I know that dude. He sent me some recipes the other day. Haven't had a chance to look at it. But what do we do with them? How do we engage these guys? Well, you can continue down this path literally as long as you want to, right? So let's say you go, okay, guys, today we're going to do a webinar on the benefits of fruit juice. I'm going to have Dr. Rick James on, and he's going to tell us all about how to juice fruits, right? And of course, he's going to talk about juicing apples, bananas, and oranges on that webinar. And then there's another one that could be, hey, today I'm going to give you this little series about how to make refreshing summer desserts out of fresh fruit that your kids are going to love, right? And then you could put them to a little funnel about that. And then there could be another one about another doctor talking about the benefits of fruit recipes on how to eat fruit, etc., right? Or fruit fasts, or whatever you want to do, however fruity you want to get. What do all of these things do at the end? They all point back to selling that fruit bowl. So over time, and over a relatively quick amount of time, the majority of your list can be engaged, right? They can be checking out your stuff based on what they raised their hand to see in real time. Now, I'll give you something, because I know some people are thinking, yeah, but if I create a report about apples, why would I send them something about bananas? Because it's still fruit. It's still the same thing. And I'll prove this to you. Obviously, you're on my list. You're probably on other people's list too, right? So how many internet guys where you signed up for something about sales training might send you something about traffic and you check it out? But you might say, well, wait a minute, traffic isn't sales training. I know, but it's still under the same umbrella of increased success. So conceptually, this is the same thing, right? So ultimately, we'll have 90% or however many, a lot of this list, right, engaged, and now they're getting sales messages about the fruit, but it's all wrapped around this value. It's all wrapped around this incredible goodwill, which means they love you. It means that you are creating authority and trust and desire with them. And what do they feel about you? They're thinking, this is awesome, right? So you're probably thinking, okay, conceptually, I get this, right? This makes sense to me. And of course it does, because we're treating people the way we would want to be treated. We're only giving them stuff they specifically ask for immediately, right? So how do we do it? Well, first of all, what we do is we send them an email about the content, right? So the languaging in the email is always very, very simple. It's never go buy my stuff. It's, hey, I just made this video for you about apples, and it shows you how to make apple juice really fresh in a really easy way. I hope you enjoy it. Click here. So it's very, very friendly. Now, for reasons I don't have time to explain, this gets a much higher click-through rate than a sales email, right? But where do we send them? We send them to a web page with the content. This can be a blog page, or it could just be a little video sales letter. It doesn't really matter as long as that content is good. I'll tell you how to structure the content in a minute. And from that page, we then send them to a conversion mechanism. That conversion mechanism is the sales letter. It could be an order form. It could be a webinar. It could be a video sales letter. It doesn't matter. Whatever you use to convert someone into a customer, that is a fancy way of saying it. Conversion mechanism. See, we're on a fancy webinar now. We got 3 different types of fruit, and we're saying words like conversion mechanism. All right, so let's talk about that middle piece, right? But it's real easy to write an email that says, hey, I made this for you, go check it out. And it's real easy to send someone to a sales letter or video or whatever. But how do we structure that content so that it provides massive value, it genuinely helps them, and it makes them want to buy? Well, there are 3 steps to it. I'm going to walk you through it in detail right now because I am your homeboy. Okay, so 3 steps. And you don't have to do these sequentially. We just want to cover all the bases, right? We have a piece of content that educates. We also want to engage with them, and we also want to inspire them. I want you to listen very carefully. If you do these three things using these strategies, your list will absolutely love you. And what happens when they absolutely love you? They trust you and they buy from you, right? You don't need a gigantic list, although it's good to have, so you might as well get one, right? But really, that value that you provide to them, that builds the relationship, and the relationship builds the response, and the response builds money. So everything I'm telling you always triggers back to you selling more stuff. We're just doing it in an incredibly cool way. So let me walk you through how to do each of these three things. First of all, let's talk about educating people, right? Basically, what you want to do is teach them how to get some of the results they want, right? So if a guy's buying a bowl of fruit, for example, well, what does he want? He wants to enjoy the fruit. So we might as well teach him how to do it by giving him cool fruit recipes, etc. Right? Now, every time you help someone get some of a result they want, their natural response is thank you, what's next? And that means they appreciate what you've given them and they want more. Well, that more could be buying your stuff, right? So if you think, well, using the food metaphor, I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but there's some restaurants, you go and sit down, and before you even order, they'll bring you these like little bowl of soup or a little thing to quote unquote cleanse the palate from the chef, you know? And it's always some ridiculously delicious thing that's about 1/2 of one bite, and it's free. But they give you that before you order, because the next thing, immediately after you eat that little bite of food, you're starving. You're like, oh my God, that was so good. I'm so hungry. I'm about to eat a horse. You know, and then of course you order everything on the menu because you enjoyed that little bite so much. So we're doing that same thing with our content. Now here's another thing. Psychologically, whenever you educate someone, that equals authority in their mind. Now why is this true? Well, you and I have about 12 years minimum of experience because we all went to school, right? So 12 years of grade school and high school teaches us that the person who educates is the authority, right? And gosh, if you went to college, you got 16 to 20 years of this belief system habitually and behaviorally ingrained in our psychology. It's in every human's psychology in the world. So the more we educate, the more authority we begin to have. That's how you earn authority. See, the person who goes, I'm an authority, I'm an authority, I'm an authority, no one listens to them, right? But if we demonstrate authority by educating our prospects, then we earn it and we have it and it cannot be taken away, right? So let me give you exactly what to say, right? So let's say we made a video about selling stuff, right? And this video was about traffic or something, right? So we'll go back, we'll get off of fruit for a minute, and we'll go back to something everyone can relate to, right? Which is business. So here's the exact language pattern. We just concluded the video. We taught them some cool stuff. We didn't pitch or anything. It was just real nice, good content. And at the end of it, you say, I hope you enjoyed making this video, or I'll start over. At the end of it, we say, I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed creating it for you. And if you're serious about selling more stuff in your online business, then you're probably going to want to have a look at my brand new course called Ultimate Online Selling System. This course is really helpful to you because it not only shows you how to generate more traffic, but it shows you what to do with that traffic once the floodgates are open and they start really pouring into your website, right? And then you can tell them what to do. So if it's on a blog or something, you say, so if you'd like to have a look at that, go ahead and click the link below this video and check it out. Or if you want to, by the way, you can just start pitching it right there at the end and then have an order button pop up. Either way is your choice. It doesn't matter. But when you do it this way, you're never overtly pitching. Every email that you communicate to your list is always providing value. So we wrap everything around value. You see how that works? I'm telling you, it is the secret weapon. I have multiple millions of reasons in the form of United States currency, by the way, to prove that this is the best way to go about it. Now, the second thing we can do is we can engage them, right? So you can have educational content. You can also have something called engagement content. And engagement equals trust. So when we interact with someone and we acknowledge them, right? And we have that sort of open communication that fosters trust. So the way you do that without actually literally speaking to every single prospect is you create educational content and you frame that content as a response to their questions, right? And the content simply further teaches them how to get more of the results they want. So I'll give you the beginning of your video and then I'll show you how to segue into the pitch, right? So here's exactly what you say in the beginning of your video. You say, Hey everybody, Frank Kern here, or you probably don't want to use my name, right? So you say, hey everybody, good to see you again. Thank you so much for watching these videos. I really appreciate it. And listen, I've been getting a lot of questions, and tell me if this sounds familiar. One of the biggest questions I get is people say, what do I do if I don't have a big list? And you know what? That's a great question. And it used to worry me too. And frankly, I used to have no list at all. And here's how I built one. So in today's video, I'm going to walk you through some of the basic steps of building a list. And then boom, what do? Well, it says so right here, third bullet point, content further teaches how to get the results they want, right? Now, here's what you say at the end of the video, right? You have that same little pattern. Hey, thanks again so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you. And if this sounds like you, then you're clearly serious about dramatically increasing your sales online. And that's why my new Ultimate Online Sales System might be a good fit for you. And then you can go into your pitch. Now, I want to share with you some deep psychological stuff now. The word might be a good fit is actually an opening for an internal decision implant, right? I'm not telling them to go do anything. I'm just suggesting that maybe it is. So the mere act of them checking it out means that they have decided that, in fact, it is a good fit. As simple as this sounds, it's critical. We want everything to be their decision, right? We don't push, we pull. It's kind of like, imagine being a child, right? And you're a happy kid. We're around 7 years old. We've gone to visit the grandparents for the summer. We're loving it. We're having the best time. We have two things that can happen. Number one, our grandmother can say, go in the kitchen and eat some of those cookies I made. Okay, still a pretty good deal. It's cookies. Or the other thing could be, honey, would you like some cookies? I just made them. Which do you think is going to get the better response? Number two, right? Either way, it's still, you go eat some cookies, but the framing of the question is a big deal. So let me give you now a bonus NLP language pattern, okay? This is some cool stuff, and I just kind of threw this in here because I love this kind of stuff, and I think it makes a lot of sales, and it makes a lot of people happy. This is going to be using the principle of presupposition, all right? So presupposition is essentially a statement which presupposes that they've already decided to take the action. So instead of saying, hey, go do this, we're hypnotically implanting the decision in their mind as if they've already decided to go do it. This is a classic internal decision mechanism, an internal decision trigger. Are you ready? Here it is. It's a very simple statement. Now, before you get this, let me tell you exactly what it does so you know it's right for you. Okay? Simple sentence, isn't it? In fact, there are two hardcore NLP tools being used in this sentence. I'll show you. Now, before you get this is the presupposition. By saying before you get this, it's presupposing they've already decided to get this. It's just a matter of when, right? So we're not telling them to get it. We're just saying, hey, before you go get this, let me tell you exactly what it does. Now, what's the second one? I'll read it to you, and then I'll highlight it as I say it, and I'll change my tonality, okay? So now, before you get this, let me tell you exactly what it does so you know it's right for you. Now, you would never say it with that tonality, but do you know what that purple line is right there? Some of you probably do. Yep. An embedded command is what that's called. I'm saying you know it's right for you. Instead of, so you know it's right for you, I'm just embedding that command, that belief hypnotically. So before you get this, let me tell you exactly what it does so you know it's right for you. When I do that, what they're hearing is before you get this, meaning subconsciously they've already decided to get it. It's just a matter of when, and you know it's right for you. Pretty cool stuff, right? So I just want to give you that to give you some fun with language that you can use while delivering massive value to people. See, we don't have to sell. We don't have to be pushy. In fact, the opposite prevails in the new landscape of marketing. Value sells now. Hype does not sell. Push does not sell. Pull sells. Lot better than hype and push, okay? But now let me show you how to do the third pillar. Remember, we have educate, engage, and what? Inspire. That's our third thing we want to do. Now, the reason we want to inspire them, first of all, it's cool and it's a nice thing to do. It also creates fierce loyalty, right? Now, I know probably some folks are here in the military or military veterans, and one thing that happens in the military is your drill sergeant or your commanding officer will inspire the men by telling them they're part of something great, by telling them that they're special, by telling them that they're very, very important. This, of course, is true. Our military is something great, and those men and women are part of something extremely important. It's also a psychological tactic, which creates fierce loyalty. So there are multiple ways we can inspire. Number one is by telling stories, and I would be delighted to teach you storylines and angles and arcs that sell. If you request it, I'll be happy to do that for you. And we can also inspire by delivering results in advance. Basically, what either one of these two paths you want to do, their function is to overcome self-doubt within the prospect. Now, I'll give you a little something here. There are really two main reasons. I used to think there were only two main reasons people wouldn't buy. Now I know there are three. Now, the two obvious ones are, number one, they don't want it. Another obvious one is, number two, they don't believe you. They don't believe that your product is any good. Now, the third one, which is actually the worst and most insidious one that can hurt you the worst, is that they believe you. They believe that your product is good, but they don't believe in themselves enough to be able to get the results from it, right? Self-doubt. It's the number one killer of dreams right now, right? It's really a horrible thing. So what we want to do is we want to inspire them to get them to overcome that self-doubt. Let them know we believe in them. Let them know that they do have the power to get results if they put their mind to it and they're willing to put in the work. And we tell them stories about that. So let me give you a little language pattern of how you would close out your video, right? And now this is a big one, okay? So I know you probably didn't sign up to get hypnotic NLP stuff, but I want to give it to you anyway because I think it's so very valuable to you and this will help you make more money, in my opinion. So first of all, I'll read it to you and I'll highlight stuff, okay? So here's the pattern. You're obviously really serious about what results should we use? Getting healthy. We'll say that. You're obviously really serious about getting healthy, and I just want to take some time to acknowledge you for that. Most people never take the time to educate themselves the way you have. Look, you're online, you're watching, reading this right now, and you really have the commitment and determination to do this now. That's why you're perfect for my new Health Now boot camp. That's the worst product name ever, sorry. It's specifically for people like you who want to get healthy because it helps you get in the best shape of your life while also eating well and being happy, right? Now, obviously, I'm kind of losing a little bit on those benefits because I'm doing it by the seat of my pants. But the description of product and benefits aren't the thing that's really going to make this magic. What's really making this magic is the hypnotic language pattern. So I'm going to break each one of these lines down for you. I hope you like this. I really love teaching this for you. I'm sure you can tell, right? It's a lot of fun. Okay, so let's go. First of all, you're obviously really serious. Now, I've highlighted that in green. There are two things going on right now. Number one, it's an embedded command. You're obviously really serious. I'm telling them they know this and are thus accepting it as fact using common sleight of mouth languaging techniques. Now, what I'm also doing is I'm saying you're obviously really serious. The word obviously presupposes that this is fact and that everyone else knows it, right? And the third thing I'm doing is I'm acknowledging them by telling them they're really serious, which is a classic inspiration method. So I'll continue. You're obviously really serious about getting healthy, and I just want to take some time to acknowledge you for that. Now, that is just blatant. There's no subliminal NLP stuff going on in there. It's just me acknowledging them. First of all, because, look, most people really never do take the time to actually better themselves, just like, there are thousands of people that had the opportunity to join this presentation today, and you were one of the few who are still here. Actually, there are a lot of people still here, but in comparison to the entire marketplace, you're in the 1%, right? You know this. Well, your market's the same way, so you might as well acknowledge people for doing stuff. We always get a lot more with kindness than we do with anything else, right? So I'll move on to the next part of the pattern. Most people never take the time to educate themselves the way you have. Now, look. What is one of the most primary drivers of human behavior? There are really 6. One of the most primary ones is something called significance. It explains why people have big houses, buy fancy cars, drape rocks on their body that are obviously expensive but look like cut glass and you can't tell the difference, right? Have gold chains. It explains why the desire for significance explains a tremendous amount of completely illogical human behavior. So if people are willing to do unbelievably crazy stuff to get significance, doesn't it make sense that we just give them some in our marketing? Of course. So that's exactly what we're doing right now. We're basically saying you are significant and better than most. Because most people never take the time to educate themselves the way you have, right? Now, let's continue going forward. What I'm going to share with you now is a very cool NLP tactic. So we say, you're online, you're watching this, and you really have the commitment and determination to do this now. Now, there are two things going on here. First of all, in the blue and in the green section, I'm sharing with you something that I call the triple fact method. I'm sure this has a better phrase, a real clinical term in NLP, but I call it triple fact. And here's what it is. The principle says that when you tell people two obvious facts they can immediately and readily agree with, the third thing that you want them to accept as fact flies in under the subconscious and is accepted, right? So what am I telling them? Really, I'm saying you're online. Well, obviously, they're looking at your content on their computer on the internet, right? You're watching or reading this. You want to say one of the two, depending on what they're doing. So if we're in video, we say you're watching this. If it's an article, you say you're reading this. Well, obviously, they're watching or reading it because they're on their computer watching it or reading it, right? And the third thing is what we want them to accept as fact. So that is, you really have the commitment and determination, right? So we want them to accept that. Why? Because we're overcoming that self-doubt. Okay, we're not talking about how great we are. We're talking about how great they are. Because look, we have, let's say I sell a training to 1,000 people. 500 of them get great results. 500 of them get no results. The training is constant. The training is the same for all 1,000 people. The only difference is the people, right? So you want to build up your customer to give them that drive and desire to use what you have to get the results. And we want to do that before the transaction. Now, what do I have down there in purple? What's that? What do you think? Anyone want to guess? An embedded command. Do this now, right? So I'll read it with exaggerated tonality. You're online, you're watching this, and you really have the commitment and determination to do this now. Do this now is what? It's an embedded command to do what? To buy right now, right? Okay, and now the final part of this language pattern is, that's why you're perfect for my new Get Healthy Bootcamp. It's specifically for people like you who want to get healthy because it helps you lose weight and get in shape fast without starving yourself, right? Now, there are only two little ninja things going on. Number one is that's why. Now, this is not NLP. It is classic influence. If you read Cialdini's book, Influence, we need a reason why, right? So we tell them, that's why you're perfect for this product. Now, the you're perfect for this product is not telling them to go buy the product. It's not telling them the product is perfect for them. It's telling them what? They are perfect for it, meaning it is pulling them towards it. It is all about them. I'll give you one more little psychological thing here while we're on this tangent. Everything we do, every video we make, every email we write, every campaign we build is about what? It is not about us. It is not about our product. It is ultimately about our prospect and their deepest desires. That's why I said you're perfect for this product. Okay, so that's a fun little NLP language pattern you can use to end an inspirational video, or any video, really, it doesn't matter, or any webinar, or any platform speech. So that's a very, very good closing technique I just gave you. So let me give you a real life example of one of these campaigns, right, of a behavioral dynamic response campaign. So I wanted to make an offer to my list, right? Why would I do that? Well, because of fundamental operating principle number 3. Remember, at the very beginning of this presentation, we went over some things, one of them being that the amount of income, among other things, is directly proportional to the amount of offers we make. So I said, I want to make an offer, but I wanted to operate under that golden rule, that the offer itself must be valuable. And I also wanted to use this behavioral dynamic response technology I showed you. So let me show you what happened. I took my list, I mailed everybody. I said, okay, well, let's just check some stuff out. And I said, you know what, guys, I have this cool video for you. And here's the email. Actually, I said, there's this cool video for you where I walk you through a case study of a stealth selling campaign that brought in over 113 grand in revenue. And it might take a minute to load, but it should play automatically for you right here. And as you can see, that's a picture of the email, and it's got a little screenshot from the video and everything. And that's what I sent them, right? So nothing pushy, no, hey, go buy my stuff, just classic example, just like what we did with the apples and oranges and bananas. Hey, I have this video for you. I think you might enjoy it. Here you go, right? So that video, or that email rather, led to, of course, the video. And what happens at the end of the video? Well, I used one of those language patterns that I explained to you a second ago, right? It was like, hey, I hope you enjoyed watching this as much as I enjoyed making it for you, and then went in and made an offer to them. Now, the guys who didn't buy from that offer, I sent them a couple more cool pieces of content, right? And that was the entire campaign. Now, the guys who didn't click on that email originally, so whoops, the guys who didn't click here, I didn't hound them a million times, right? So they never saw this and they never saw the remaining content, just the people who clicked. So very, very simple, but still dynamic, right? The other percentage of the list who didn't click on that email, they got something else. But let's talk about the ones who did click. This whole little dynamic campaign that I'm walking you through to date has brought in $207,000 or $207,063 to be exact, right? Nothing really hardcore, nothing scientific. It's just a shift of the way that the business is done. You begin with something super friendly that provides value. It's a simple email. Say, I made this for you. I hope you enjoy it. Then you deliver great content under one of those three categories: education, engagement, or inspiration, or you combine all three and then you make an offer. And if they don't buy, you follow up with some more value. That brought in over $207,063. Hard to say for some reason. Very easy to spend though, unfortunately, right? So here's where we are in this process, okay? I've shown you how to expand the reach, right, by building multiple lead magnets based on solutions to problems that are causing the primary issue, right? And that's how we get a huge list, and that's also how we celebritize. I've also showed you how to create custom campaign systems, right? This is where we build authority, and we build trust, we build massive goodwill, we further the celebrity positioning, and of course we make sales, like I just showed you. So now let me show you the third piece of this formula, which is the ascension piece, and that's where we get the explosive growth. You know it's explosive growth because we just saw little flames down there at the bottom with my very high-tech PowerPoint presentation, right? So the great thing about Ascension is this is really the hidden source of easy money. And when I say the words easy money, I don't mean we're going to do nothing and get paid and any of that pie in the sky crap. Here's what I mean by easy money. First of all, people love to buy, and we're only putting Ascension campaigns in front of people who have already purchased. So we're just letting them do more of what they've already demonstrated they like to do. So that makes a lot of sense. Now, another thing, according to my teacher and earliest mentor, Dan Kennedy, he says, and I believe him, that 15 to 20% of customers will buy the next level thing regardless of marketing or what it is. That there's about 15 to 20% of the population of buyers out there, regardless of niche, who will just upgrade to the cooler thing no matter what it is, because that's just how they roll, right? You ever been to a restaurant with a guy and they're like, hey, what kind of wine do you have, or what kind of wine do you want? And he's like, I don't know, just give me the most expensive one. That's probably the best. Well, about 15 to 20% of your buyers are just like that guy, right? So that's therefore another reason why Ascension is very easy money, because survey says 15 to 20% of them want to buy the next thing regardless. Now, the other 75 to 80% of these guys who don't just instantly want to take you up on something, they're infinitely easier to sell because you've already made that critical first transaction. You've already sold them something. You've already demonstrated to them that you're a solid guy or a nice lady, depending on your gender, of course. So you've earned that trust. So you already have this relationship with them. And finally, the reason this is the hidden source of easy money is because your Ascension sales are 100% profit because you've already got the customer. You've already spent the marketing dollars to make that first sale a while ago. So now you don't have to spend any more money to make these sales. So everything that's left over, aside from your hard cost, of what the actual product costs are for you, everything else is 100% real net profit. You don't have any other hidden expenses behind it. So that's where a lot of money is for you, is in this Ascension. And the question now is, of course, how do we do Ascension? And more importantly, how do we utilize this Ascension, this incredible source of easy money, while operating under our golden rule, which is that everything that we do, including and especially the promotions, must be in and of themselves something of value to our end user, right? Well, let me show you how to do it. First of all, we've got three types of Ascension. The first type is something you've probably seen a zillion times. This is called the pre-transaction Ascension. This means before they actually fill out the order form, there's an ability for them to buy more stuff, kind of like at McDonald's, the classic, do you want fries with that, right? Or even more internet related, if you go to, say, GoDaddy.com and order a domain from there or hosting or anything, they do pre-transactional Ascension all the time. Click here if you want to have, special email. Check this box if you want the website builder, all that kind of stuff, right? That's kind of old school, nothing new there. I'm sure you've seen it a million times. Stuff that is becoming very common in the internet marketing world, but not as common the rest of the world, is something called in-session Ascension. Say that 3 times real fast. Fancy way of saying one-click upsells, right? So this is after they've hit submit on their order form. Now, by simply clicking a button, they can add more stuff to their order instantly without having to fill out anything else. And that's very, very popular, very, very profitable. The third is something called campaign-driven ascension. And this is where you basically launch a campaign to your customers after they buy. And you do so sequentially and systematically and automatically. And there's a lot of money in that. So let me walk you through a recent case study of where I did the final 2 there, in-session and campaign-driven. So you might have seen this. It sold like crazy. It's a little book I wrote in December called How I Created a $175,000 per month consulting business in just 90 days. And the book was free, and I let people have it for free if they would just pay the whopping shipping charge of $5.60. And the campaign worked like crazy, right? Thousands of people got this book for shipping only, and they were all very happy, and it was fantastic. So that in and of itself was something very valuable to the end user. So we're following the golden rule. But how do we continue to follow it and make a lot of money with Ascension at the same time? Well, I did it in 2 phases. The first part was the in-session instant ascension, right? This is one-click upsell. So here's how it worked. People bought the book, or rather they just paid shipping only for the book. The book was free. And immediately upon order, they saw one-click upsell number 1, and that was for a training for $297. If they didn't take it, I offered to split that payment up for them, and then regardless of whether or not they took that, they saw the second one-click upsell, which was for a product that was 2 payments of $97, right? So let me give you the numbers. The book itself brought in $63,739.20 in revenue. Now, most of that, actually all of that, went towards shipping of the book because I didn't make any money there. But look at these upsells, this instant ascension here. The first one-click upsell offer brought in immediately $157,113. The 3-pay offer immediately brought in $64,602 in sales, and the final one-click upsell brought in $76,436. So in total, that whole thing brought in $361,890.20. But check this out. That was just in the first 16 days of that thing being alive. That brought in that much money. That campaign is still running today, by the way. Now, of course, it's died down. Now it's just 100% advertising driven, right? Now, the second part of this is the Ascension campaign. This is where I believe the real money is. So after the people purchased the book, I actually gave them 2 different Ascension campaigns. So the first one is I sent a series of advanced automation video tutorials. And this was hardcore stuff. It was really, really cool, right? It actually showed mechanically how to build really cool automated systems, kind of a lot like what I'm giving you right now today. And at the end of those videos, I said, hey, you know what? If you would like to talk to someone from our services company about how to really deploy this in your business and to get some ideas of where certain parts of this automated stuff might work for you, we're happy to talk to you. And I basically sold, quote unquote, a free consulting session, right? So on that consulting session, people got lots of value because remember our golden rule, everything must be valuable. So we helped them out. We said, yeah, here's where you could deploy this, and you might want to change this offer to this, and you might want to make this the back end, et cetera, et cetera. And some of those folks went ahead and bought funnel architecture from us. And that's where we really design and build out the entire architecture for a digital marketing funnel for people. And that yielded about $175,000 in sales in a very, very quick amount of time, actually, in about 3 weeks. So that was path number 1, right? For an Ascension campaign. Now, path number 2 was where I said, hey, thanks so much for buying this book. I've created this webinar for you. I'm going to share with you some advanced client getting strategies for consultants because it makes sense, right? They bought a book about consulting. And so people got on the webinar, and if they didn't immediately buy from the webinar, I gave them follow-up video tutorials where I really got on the whiteboard and walked them through traffic sources and closing techniques and everything. And the point of all of these things was to offer an advanced consulting class, right? So they could buy it from the webinar, and if they didn't buy it from the webinar, I would continue to stack that value. Remember the golden rule. The webinar itself, very valuable. The follow-up video tutorials, very valuable, regardless of whether or not they purchase. And of course, the thing they purchased, the advanced consulting class, was extremely valuable. That ended up bringing in $222,675 and strangely 1 penny. That 1 penny is what makes it, right, to date. So if you add both of those campaigns together, both of those little follow-up Ascension campaigns together, They brought in $397,675.01. Now, if you add that to the instant ascension, that in-session ascension that we got, the total from this one campaign is $759,565.22, which is fantastic, right? And right now, as a matter of fact, I have a similar campaign that's bringing in $2,086.62 per day just from PPC advertising alone. Just from PPC advertising alone. That's $2,086.62 per day, which, if it continues at this pace, is $761,616.30 per year. And that is semi-passive, because it's coming from advertising, right? I mean, they're just going, they're buying a book, they're getting some stuff during the in-session ascension, and that's where that revenue is coming from. Now, what's interesting about this is those numbers don't even include the ascension campaigns. I haven't even deployed webinars or more advanced videos or anything to the buyers yet. So those numbers are only going to increase. And I share these with you to demonstrate the power of something that very few people ever talk about. I call it RGAs. RGA stands for Revenue Generating Assets, right? Everything I've shown you in today's presentation is actually an asset thing that can be deployed forever, in perpetuity, right? So that little video campaign I showed you that I sent to my list where I said, hey, I made this case study for you, and then it sold something that generated 200 grand. I can deploy that whenever I want. I can add it as an automated part of my marketing sequence to new people who opt in. I can deploy it quarterly to people who didn't see it yet. Doesn't matter. I can always run that whenever I feel like it, automatically, and it'll generate revenue because it's an asset that can be deployed, right? That book campaign, that first one I showed you that's still bringing in money today, that's an asset, right? All of the back-end sequences I created are assets. That webinar I sent to all of the book buyers, I could advertise that webinar by itself. It could generate revenue, right? It is a revenue-generating asset. So let's take a look at the two assets I showed you today. Number one was that little email campaign I showed you. I sent 100% of the people on my list. I said, hey, I made this video for you. You might like it. Check it out. Led them to a video page where I got on the whiteboard. I taught them all kinds of stuff. Then I gave them some more cool content. It brought in $207,000 and change. Then I showed you the book campaign. Two parts of that book campaign, right? I showed you the in-session, instant ascension, and I showed you the ascension campaigns, and the total of those were $759,565 and, of course, 22 cents, right? So these are classic examples of revenue-generating assets following that golden rule that everything we do must be of value to the end user. And, of course, I believe that's why the numbers are so high, because it follows that new marketing principle that every bit of the marketing must advance your prospect further towards the results that they want. If we just do that, they'll be fiercely loyal to us. I think I've proven that. So now let's talk about you. You've listened to this entire presentation and you've seen the power of what I've shown you, and you know that the stuff works. And maybe you're wondering to yourself, what's the fastest way for me to actually do this stuff? And if you'd like some help with it, I would be delighted to help you. I've created a brand new training for you, and it's called Mass Conversion. And the training is specifically about showing you how to create revenue generating assets that build a large